right, looks like we are live on Facebook. Welcome, everyone. So, today's topic, we are going to be talking about how to get unstuck and embrace the joy of progress. And so, what I want to do is I want to break down and talk a little bit of what it's like when you're feeling stuck, when you're feeling unmotivated, where you can't seem to progress forward. We're going to break down all of the pieces of what can possibly cause you to become stuck, and then also how to move forward from those things. And I'm just going to break it down into three different sections today, and then we'll go over that in a deep dive. So you want to stay tuned and continue to stay to the end. So make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe, or if you have to leave early, go to my YouTube channel, Coach Tina B 125, and subscribe. You'll get notified when I upload the replay of this live training. So if this is your first time here, my name is Tina. I am a happiness coach, and I help business owners who are struggling with the emotional roller coaster of just running a business, whether that's your own emotions or the emotions of the people that you have to deal with in the business. And so I take a trauma-informed approach. I share a lot of my own personal experience, strength, and hope, so that you're having real, live, tangible examples of something that actually works. These are things that I actually use myself. These are things that I do myself. And I've applied these both in my personal life for my healing and recovery, and then also from a change management perspective of how I've actually taken a lot of these things that I've learned from my own personal healing journey, and I apply it in a change management corporate setting. So these will help you both in your personal life and your professional life. So let's think of what happens when we're feeling stuck. When we are feeling stuck, usually the number one thing is the reason people feel stuck is lack of clarity. So this could be lack of clarity of our goals, our target, of a problem, of how to solve things, what to do. So we can have different stages of clarity. We can be completely unaware of that there's even a problem. So if you don't have insight, you don't have knowledge that there is a problem, you may be just going through the motions of your life, and you're like, I don't seem to be getting anywhere. What's going on? You could also be completely in denial, and this is what I call denial is don't even know I'm lying. So you're aware that there's some pain, but you're not acknowledging whatever the pains are. Oh, it's not that bad. It's going to get better. It's going to change. When this thing happens, when that thing happens. So we always have that feeling like we're like the donkey with chasing the carrot on the stick, right? Thank you so much, Am, for sending positive vibes. I appreciate you. So what we end up doing is we end up feeling like we're delaying our happiness, delaying our joy, dealing with a problem, because we're always thinking, well, when this new system gets implemented, when I get the new job, when I get this, when this happens. So there's always some sort of, it's not that bad, delaying it, and just in denial of how much of a problem it is, right? So that can, when we're in denial of a problem, then we cannot get any clarity. Hey, Hanny, we can't get clarity because we're not looking for clarity, right? And seek and you shall find. So when we start acknowledging that, hey, maybe this is actually a bit more of a problem than I thought it was. Maybe I'm not as happy as I thought I was. Maybe I am feeling depressed. Maybe I am feeling anxious. Maybe I am feeling these things that I've been too busy denying, right? So I've been focusing on other things. I've been trying not to look at that stuff. That is active denial. Don't even know I'm lying, and we're pretending that it's not as bad as it is. So Now, the next stage is we can become aware that there is a problem, but we are maybe too afraid to fully acknowledge the problem. We are more afraid of judgment, so we know that there's a problem, but we don't know if we fix it, if we do this thing, are we going to get judged for it? Are we going to, are other people not going to like it? Are other people going to be negatively impacted by something that we know we need to do this? But if we do this, it's going to cause problems over here. So sometimes we actively stay in denial so that we don't have to deal with the additional problems that are going to come up when we implement the solution we know we need to implement, right? And that can be something that causes us to lack clarity. So we also can end up feeling like, well, what are other people going to think if I do this thing? If I take this chance, if I make this change, right? If I implement this system, right? The last system that we implemented, it didn't work so well, or there were these problems or that problem and everybody was upset. Or maybe it's like, well, it's not broken right now, so don't fix it, right? Kind of thing. And you can do that, but you also might be aware that you know you need to make this change, but you're like, well, it's not that bad, right? So you delay the stuff. And that can cause a lot of problems. Or we can also be afraid that we're going to make a mistake. What if I do this thing and it's the wrong thing to do and I end up making it worse? So we will often create a lot of resistance to change because we're unable to take that risk, take that chance, right? And sometimes the lack of clarity is just because we don't have enough information. And if we're in denial of that there's even a problem, we're not going to seek more information. We're not going to be looking for more information about something if we don't believe that there's a problem anyway, because, you know, we're not going to waste our energy on something that we don't believe is a problem. We're going to focus on the bigger things. We're going to focus on the things that we think we can actually fix. And oftentimes, if we don't think that we can actually fix it, or we're unsure of exactly what it is that we need to do to fix it, we tend to put it on the back burner, and we won't focus on it, and that causes the lack of clarity. So it's that lack of clarity that prevents us from being able to take those next action steps, or put plans together to say, okay, this is what I need to do to move forward and start progressing forward. So the second thing is oftentimes what'll keep us stuck and unable to progress and move forward is lack of accountability. And this one can be a little bit of a touchy one, and I tend to, because I was browbeaten so much, I was like, you don't take accountability, or everything is your fault, right? And so I don't know if maybe you're like, well, Tina, I blame myself for everything. I'm always taking responsibility. I'm always doing this kind of stuff. Well, that in and of itself is not taking accountability, because it's not possible for one person to be responsible for everything and that you are the cause of all the problems. And anybody that has told you that you are the only cause of all the problems, then I can promise you they were not taking accountability. So what ends up happening is we have an accountability problem, and sometimes it's we take on too much accountability, and we take on the accountability of others, which is letting them off the hook, and they are not taking accountability for their part. I have been severely guilty of this kind of thing throughout my life. And then there's been other times where, because I'm taking on so much accountability of other people, that I'm not actually taking accountability for the things that I do have responsibility and power and control over. And so what sometimes makes it hard for somebody to take accountability is um, if we've been through a lot of criticism in the past, whether that's from our childhood or whether it's a past work environment, any of those kind of things, it makes us a little bit more sensitive, a little bit more defensive. And if we've been through situations where we were truly blamed for things that were not our fault, and we weren't strong enough at the time to be able to counteract that or to be able to argue that back logically, then what happens is we tend to do one of two things. We tend to fall on one side of the fence or the other. Either we forfeit and defer our power to somebody else, meaning that we start to create a belief that we actually don't have any power or control over the situation. We don't actually have any power or control over ourselves. So we tend to start to defer our power to other people, and we start to look to other people have the power, and therefore we can often fall into not taking accountability for our own self, our own lives, our own happiness, and the actions that we take or don't take. And so because of that, we can end up delaying and keeping ourselves stuck by not taking accountability for that, or giving accountability back to the person that it belongs to. And so I've often fallen into a situation where I fall into more of an enabler role, where I'm trying to prevent consequences, natural consequences for somebody else's behavior, by stepping in, taking ownership, and doing that kind of stuff, and not realizing by me expending that kind of energy, and taking ownership and trying to help other people through their stuff, that I'm not actually focusing on what I need to focus on, and I'm not focusing on the things that I need to take ownership of in my own life and fixing those kind of things. So it's kind of a bit of a messed up way that you don't realize that you're not taking accountability, especially if you feel like you're always getting blamed for everything. So it can be a bit of a challenge to see that perspective, to really look at ourselves. It's like, if I'm expending all of this energy on other people and helping them and doing all this stuff for them, what am I not? If I'm saying yes to their stuff all the time, it means I'm saying no to a lot of my stuff. And so being able to do the inner work to understand where that comes from, why you're doing that, and then how to shift through that so that you're moving more in a whole healed perspective, rather than operating out of a maladjusted coping mechanism that maybe we had to develop at one time just to survive whatever situation that we were going through. So when I focus on what is it that I need to take accountability for, is this truly mine? Is this a proper balanced perspective? Or am I taking on responsibility of everybody else's stuff and using that as a way to avoid the responsibilities for myself? And that kind of goes back to the clarity of maybe, why are you in denial about certain things? Why are you avoiding certain things, right? So the next third thing that, is this making sense to everybody so far? Okay, good, awesome. All right. Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you for the feedback. All right, so the third thing is reinforcement. So one of the things that can keep us stuck is, maybe we've got goals. Maybe we've got big plans of things that we want to do. It's just like so out there, so down the line, that what ends up happening is there's not enough positive reinforcement towards the actions that need to progress you forward. So it's about making sure that we have enough positive reinforcement, positive reward for taking the necessary actions in order to move us forward. And of course, in order to do that, we must have that clarity. We must have that understanding and awareness of what are those action steps. If you don't have those, well, you can't give yourself positive reinforcement for that, because you first need to clarify what are those action steps, and when you take those action steps, are they actually moving you forward? And if it's too long of a curve to be able to get that feedback, to get the data, to understand if this is actually working, is this positive, is this good, it can be challenging to not have any feedback, not have any input of being able to assess, am I actually on the right track? And so what can happen is we end up having doubt and fear creep in, and then uncertainty creeps in, and then we lack clarity because we're like, is this actually the right direction? Should I be doing this? And so oftentimes we end up giving up 5 minutes before the miracle happens, because we just don't have enough positive data to show us that we are on the right track. So there's a couple of things that we can do with this. So if we know that somebody else has been able to successfully move through this, and they've taken this journey, then we know that it is possible, that it is something that we can move forward with, and that we just need to make sure that we are taking enough of those correct actions. And so this could mean implementing a little bit more of a reward system, some sort of smaller milestones to kind of keep you moving along. What do I need? Hey, Kit Kat, you need a break? Is that what it is? That's cool. So implementing a reward system so that you actually get some sort of data, some sort of feedback and reinforcement that you are actually on the right track. The other thing that we can do is we can shift our perspective of it, and we can look at what it is that we need to see. Maybe we're not looking at the feedback properly. Maybe we're not evaluating the data properly. We're not seeing things clearly. And so maybe it's just a matter of adjusting our expectations. Maybe it's a timeline. Maybe it's tweaking certain things that we're doing so that we can move forward and understand why it is that we're stuck in the first place. And by giving ourselves that reinforcement that we need, that positive reinforcement, so that we know that we're on the right track, and is something that will keep us moving forward, and we can start to embrace that joy of progression. And one of the things that I like to do in particular, I don't do a lot of to-do lists. I do more, and I do this a lot more mentally now. I used to write a lot of stuff down. I haven't been doing that as much, but I like to focus on, here are the things that I've done, and that gives me a bit more of a positive reward system, rather than creating a big list of a bunch of things and then I end up feeling overwhelmed. So this works better for me, of being able to write down all of the things. Hey, these are all the things I accomplished today. I got all of these things done. And I don't focus so much on the, oh, but I didn't do all of these things, because that list is infinite. And with the creative imagination that I have, it can kind of get a little bit wild. So it's much easier for me to focus on compiling a list of that, and at the end of the day, that I would be proud that I took all of these actions. And I used to do this back even when I was just in transport and logistics, and I was a load planner analyst. And I and it would be little things, and I would gamify it and reward myself of like how many things can I actually get done. Like I'd be like, okay, I want to be as efficient as and productive as possible, and so like I would go into work, I'd do the things that I need to do, and there were always timeline structures that I had to follow, and I was good at being able to make sure I hit those timelines. But then I would do things like I'd be like, okay, I got all these things to do, and I'm meeting these other people after work, so I have to go out and grab my groceries. So I'm gonna go do that on my lunch break, and I would be like, okay, I have to hit the bank, I have to go groceries, and then I have to grab something for lunch, and then make it back to the office in that 1 hour time frame. And so I would race and I do all these things, and I really like that gamified way, and I didn't know that's what I was doing. I just thought I was like, oh, I got to get all these things done, and I would get all those things done in that time frame. And then I would challenge myself, and I would be really proud of myself when I got back to the office going, man, not only did I stop at the grocery store, I went to the bank, and then I stopped here, and then I did this other thing that I didn't think I was going to get done, and I got it done. So I applied that same kind of tactic in instead of making a list of all these things I need to do, and then I get overwhelmed and I'm tired and I'm anxious and all of this kind of stuff. I focus on here's all the things I did do today. And even if that was a challenge, even if it took me way longer, knowing that I actually took that action step, that I actually moved forward on it, is something that helps give me that positive reinforcement I need to take those actions to move forward. Another thing that you can do is it's not only just positive reinforcement, but we also have to remove negative reinforcement, that self-criticism, that negative feedback, because, and it's not proportional. It's not like you have one negative thing and then one positive thing and that should balance it out. No, because we tend to hang on to the negative things. Thank you, Kit Kat. Thank you so much. You have a kind voice. I appreciate this time you've given. Oh, thank you so much. I'm glad that you were able to join and that you're getting something out of this. So the negative reinforcement, we have to be extra careful with that because it's not a one-to-one ratio. It's not like, okay, if I give a positive reinforcement, that'll cancel out the negative. And depending on what it is and how negative that reinforcement was and who that was from, if you have your own negative self-talk, then you have to overcompensate with that. And I would do at least a 3 to 5 times more of what is it that the things that you're doing right more than the things that you're doing wrong, and focusing on those so that it helps build you up. If this is coming from somebody that you value their opinion, you is this the cougar live that I got invited to? No cougars here, hun. But thanks. So, uh, so there's if you have too much critical reinforcement, then it will deter you. It'll cause you to be stuck. Oh, sorry. Have a good day. You too, Solo. You too. But we have to stop the bleeding. So stop the negative input and focus on expanding, taking action at improving the positive reinforcement so that you are counteracting that in a balanced way, right? And like I said, it's not a one-to-one ratio. You have to overcompensate on the positive in order to cancel out that one negative, right? So this is why it's really important to stop those negative thoughts as quickly as possible. No different than when we have negative feedback in our business, right? Like, if you have people that are bitching and complaining and doing that kind of stuff. Now, yes, they need a place to be able to talk some of that stuff out and be able to understand. So don't shut it down so much that people are too afraid to talk about anything that might be a problem, because then you've overcompensated in a negative way. So you want to be able to allow people to talk about things and express their frustrations and what they're upset about, but in a way that is that gives positive reinforcement for bringing those challenges up, and then also focusing on what it is that we can do to fix those things, and not just complaining for the sake of complaining. Now, if somebody is in that mode, know that somebody is not just complaining for the sake of complaining. That usually what's happened is, if somebody is just complaining for the sake of complaining, and it feels like that to you, then what's happening is they're complaining about things that they think that they're allowed to complain about, but they don't feel confident or safe enough to be able to complain about the thing that is actually bothering them. So what ends up happening is they'll complain about things that don't really have any impact, they're really not fixable, and it gets focused on bitching and moaning about stuff that just, it seems to waste time. But that is actually a flag for you to know that there's a deeper concern that they are not feeling comfortable at actually expressing. So just because you look at that, it's like, why the fuck are they bitching about this stupid thing that, like, it has nothing to do with anything? And it can be easy to fall into frustration with that, but know that there still is a problem there. It's just maybe a smokescreen of what the actual problem is, because they're too afraid to bring up what the real problem is. And the only way to allow that to surface is by creating that safer environment, that positive environment, and giving that positive reinforcement of the things that they bring up. It's okay for them to bring that up. And maybe this was a coping mechanism that they developed in order to, in a previous environment, whether that's a work environment or their home life or whatever, that they learned that they can't be direct about what is truly bothering them. Maybe they were criticized, belittled, whatever, treated badly for bringing something up. So they learned to find a warped way of dealing with that same problem. So know that if there's something that comes up and it's like, this is like really irritating, it's annoying, doesn't make any sense. If it doesn't make sense, I can promise you it is emotional. There is an emotional issue that needs to be dealt with, and it requires, in order to get to the truth, you need to create that safety, that element of trust, and by giving that positive reinforcement and creating that environment, that's when the true problem will actually come to the surface, so that you can actually fix the real problem rather than spinning your wheels in the mud and feeling stuck because you're trying to fix a problem that isn't the real issue. And that happens a lot if people don't have a safe space where they can actually speak up and say what is truly bothering them. So keep that in mind, that if you find yourself in this situation where you feel frustrated, or you feel like people are just, either yourself or the people around you are stuck and not moving forward, that there is a way to embrace the joy and embrace the progress by understanding and getting clear about what the true issue is, and what our part is in it, and taking that accountability, or assigning the accountability to the appropriate parties, right? Making somebody accountable, including ourselves, making ourselves accountable for somebody else's behavior is not productive, and it's not helpful, and it will cause us to be stuck. So while yes, it's good to take ownership of being able to solve problems and to take that on, we also have to allow other people the chance to grow and the chance to experience the consequences of them not following through on the things that they know that they need to do. And not that we have to go out of our way to enforce consequences. Let them more unfold as a natural evolution of their action or inaction, one of the two, right? So those are things that, because we learn our biggest lessons by experiencing the pain of the consequences. And while that's extremely difficult to sit beside somebody and watch them go through that, it is one of the best ways to actually positively reinforce. Because imagine if a child walking, right? You see that they're going to fall, and instead of letting them fall, you run over every time and you prevent them from falling. Now, if they're going to get seriously hurt, of course you want to do something, but you have to let a child understand that, if they fall on their butt or they fall down, they can get back up and they can try again. And it's the same kind of thing. It's giving the person the dignity, the extending our belief that they do have the strength, they do have the ability to figure this out. And that doesn't mean we can't give them any feedback or anything like that, or try to help other people in any way. Of course, we want to be able to do that, but at the same time, we don't want to rob them of the joy of knowing that they struggled through something that was challenging and they made it through to the other side. And we get to be a witness to that, and be able to support and cheerlead and help them through that, and make it a joy to celebrate that progress. It's like, oh, you fell down only twice this time instead of 5 times, or focusing on what was right and giving that positive reinforcement, and that conveying that belief that we know that they're going to get through this, that they will be able to make it through to the other side. So yeah, that is the progress of getting unstuck. Now, if you have some plumbing problems with your bowels or whatever, sounds like Sydney Girl has got some really great tips of maybe having some Taco Bell will help flush that out for you. So there you go, guys. That is our topic for tonight. Get unstuck, embrace the joy of progress. We're going to focus on our clarity, defining that problem, getting clear about what the real issue is, and not be focusing on the distracted problems. We take accountability, appropriate accountability for our part in it, and focusing on what we have the power to change and control in our lives, and then positively reinforce, and making sure that we have enough data that we know that we're on the right track, right? And making sure that we move forward in that way. So guys, if this is your first time on my channel and you made it this far, and maybe you didn't catch the first half of the training, go to my YouTube channel, Coach Tina B 125, and subscribe. You'll get notified when I upload the replay. If you're on Facebook, make sure that you follow me. If you're on TikTok, make sure you follow me as well, so that you get notified when I actually do these lives. And it's a little bit random, especially right now since I'm working on a bunch of other things in the background that are taking up quite a bit of my time, but is a necessary thing that I need to get through. So until that is done, there's going to be a little bit more random times, but I will be on every day at some point before I go to bed every day, that I'll make sure that I do a live and come back and give you this training, share my insight, share my wisdom, share what has actually worked for me and continues to work for me. These are things that I actually do in my day-to-day life to help me with my personal challenges, with dealing with emotions, and the business side of things. So guys, hope that was helpful, and we'll see you again tomorrow. Have a great night. Bye.